Hello everyone, welcome to Software Testing Help. My name is Sharmila and in this video we will be discussing about assertion methods in TestNG and how do we implement them in our test cases using Selenium. Now, as we all know, we validate our test cases. We do a precondition check on our test cases using assertions, right? So, assert is basically a class in TestNG. It has various methods inside it. As you can see, these are the commonly used methods in performing validation while using assertions. So it is assert true, assert false, assert equals, assert not equals, assert null, and assert not null. Now in this video, we will be discussing about each method with examples and also how every method differs from each other. Okay. So let's start with the first method, assert true and assert false. So assert true and assert false, from the name you can guess that this assert method actually performs your assertion against the Boolean condition, right? So it performs or it expects a return value which is of type Boolean. So assert true expects a return value of true and assert false expects a return value of false. Now let's look into each of these methods with examples now. Here are a few test cases which will help us to understand the different assertion methods and how do we use them. So now let's start with the first test case. It says verify presence of sign in button in home page, which means I need to verify whether sign in button is getting displayed. My expected result is home page should display sign in button. So this is performed on amazon.in. So let me show it in the website manually now. So this is amazon.in and here I need to verify whether I have a sign in button in my home page. So when do I get a sign in button? Only when I hover on this element, right? I'm getting a sign in button. So I need to hover on this element, only then my sign in button is getting displayed. So my test steps will be first navigate to amazon.com, then come here and hover on this element. Once you hover on that element, then verify whether sign in button is displayed. So this verification or validation that I perform for verifying whether my sign in button is displayed, I'm going to do that using assert true method. So this verification I'm going to handle it using assert true. Okay. So now let's see how am I going to do that. Let's start writing our code. Okay, so now here you can see that I've just created a basic class and I've initiated my driver in at before test method and I have an at after test method wherein I've closed my driver. So here in at test method, here is where my execution point will begin. So here I'll write the test steps for my test case wherein I need to go to amazon.com, hover on the web element and then perform an assertion. So here I've written the test steps for my test case. First I'm navigating to amazon.in and then I've captured the two elements. One is my navigation link, another one is the sign in button. I've captured it using the XPath and then I've stored it in a web element variable, navigation and sign in button. And next, after going to amazon.com, what should I do? I should hover on the link. Which link I need to hover on? I need to hover on this particular link, right? So what I did is I just performed a hover action using my actions class. So this is the code in order to perform the mouse over function. So I told move to this navigation link and then make a mouse hover. Okay, so until this I've performed my test steps. Next I'm going to write my validation wherein I'm going to assert whether my sign in button is getting displayed. So as I told, I'm going to write or handle the assertion using my assert true method. So let's get started. So now I'll call the class assert and then use the assert true method. So here you can see that assert true returns the Boolean condition in its parameters. So here I need to pass a Boolean condition which will return a Boolean value. So what is my assertion basically handles? My assertion says home page should display sign in button. So I should perform a function on my sign in button. So I tell sign in button dot is displayed. I call the method is displayed in my boolean condition, and this will return true or false depending upon its presence on the web page. Okay, so here what will my assertion do is that it will assert or expect a true value, only then this assertion will pass. If it returns a false value, my assert true condition will fail. So let me add one more statement after this, and let me add few sleep conditions in between so that I give some time for the driver to find my web elements. Okay, so now I've added the print statement and sleep conditions, and now I'll run my test case. Run as test ng. My Chrome browser is getting opened. Amazon.in is invoked. It's trying to hover on that web element. Now you can see that my test case has passed, and my assertion is getting passed here. Okay, so let's analyze the results now. So what happened? Amazon.in got opened and then it hovered on the web element. After that, my assertion took place wherein it verified whether sign in button is displayed. Since it got displayed, since it returned a true value, my assert true passed. Right? My assert true passed, and it navigated, or it continued with the next step of execution wherein my statement got printed. So this is how an assert true condition works, wherein is it asserts for a true boolean condition. So the same test case, let me show you how to do it with assert equals. The same test case without using assert true, let me show you how to do it with assert equals method. Now I'm calling my assert class and then my assert equals method. So here you can see lots of assert equals method with different data types, right? You can see a boolean data type, character data type, integer, set, string, etc. Okay, so you have different data types, but only one thing you can see that it is getting repeated, that is the actual and the expected value. So here I am going to compare two variables or two data values. So here I am going to compare two boolean data values. So I'm just selecting this thing. My actual data value will be sign in button dot is displayed, which I get from my automation code, and my expected return type will be true. So I am expecting a true return type for my condition sign in button dot is displayed, which is nothing but a boolean condition. So now when I run the same code, let's see what happens. Yeah, the Chrome browser is getting opened. Amazon data is invoked. It's trying to hover on the web element. Yeah, and my test case is passed. So here when you look at my console, you can see that my test case is passed and my assert happened at this line wherein I told sign in button dot is displayed, which is a boolean condition, and my expected one is true. So here I got a true value, and this boolean condition also returned a true value. Since both were same, my assert equals passed, right? So now you understood how assert equals works. It asserts for the equality of two data values. It might be a boolean data value, a string, an integer, a collection, a set. The data type might differ, but the functionality is the same. It just compares whether two data values are equal. So here is it returned true, and here also it is true, and hence my assertion passed and continued to the next step of execution, which got printed, right? Okay, so next we'll start about assert false. So for that I have a test case in IRCTC. Now that you had an idea about assert true, can you tell me what assert false does? Yeah, so assert false will also check for a boolean condition, but it expects a return value of false. Okay, so it also will check for a boolean condition, but it will expect a negative return value, so its return type should be false. So that is the difference. This will expect a true return type and this will expect a false return type. So let me show you with the example now. Now let's see the second test case. It says verify that captcha div disappears when OTP is checked or selected. So I have an checkbox called OTP. When I select that checkbox, my captcha div is disappearing on the screen. So that is what I should verify. I should verify whether my captcha div should disappear. So here I'm going to do a negative assertion, right? I'm going to verify whether something is getting disappeared or something is not there in the web page. So here I'm going to do a negative assertion, and that I'm going to perform using assert false method. Okay, so this test case I will show you in real time now. So this is the IRCTC website, and this was the div that I was talking about, the captcha div. Okay, so this will get disappeared when I select on this checkbox. So that is the test case that I need to verify. When I click on this checkbox, this captcha div should disappear. So let me show it now. I click on it, it is getting disappeared. So that is what I need to verify. Okay, so which means first I should navigate to irctc.com, and then I should click on this checkbox. Once I click on it, this should not be there on the web page. Okay, so now let's start writing the test steps for this. So here you can see the test steps for that test case. I'm navigating to irctc.co.in, and then I've saved the captcha div and the checkbox element in two separate web element variables. Once I've navigated to irctc.com, next I'm clicking on the checkbox. After clicking on the checkbox, I need to perform an assertion. So that assertion, I'm doing it using an assert false condition. So assert false. So this is my method, and inside the false method, so let me show it to you from the Okay, so inside the assert false method, you can pass only a boolean condition. So here in assert false, it will expect a false return value. So for what am I going to assert? I am going to assert whether the captcha div is disappearing, which means is displayed should be false, right? So here my return type should be false for my boolean condition. Only then my assert false will pass. Okay, and then I've just added another print statement here after assertion. Now I'll add few sleep statements in between to make sure that I give sufficient time for my driver to find my web elements. Okay, so now let us run this and see what happens. Run as test ng. My Chrome driver is getting invoked and IRCTC is getting opened. IRCTC is opening. Now it will try to click on the button. Yes, it clicked on the button and it got disappeared. Yeah, my test case has passed. So now let's look into the results. So here you can see my checkbox got clicked, and then I need to verify whether that particular div is getting dimmed out. So after getting clicked, it came to my assert condition, wherein my captcha div dot is displayed returned a false value, and hence I'm using a false assertion here. My false value was the one that I expected, and my assertion passed over here, and then it navigated to the next step wherein that line got printed. Okay, so this is how assert false works, wherein you assert for a false boolean condition, whereas an assert true, you assert for a true boolean condition. Now the same same example, we can use assert equals like we used it for assert true, assert equals condition. So let me show you how can we use it. I call the method assert, sorry, class assert, and then I call the method called assert equals. Here I'm going to assert for two boolean values. Okay, so what will be my expected value? I'm going to expect a false assertion, false return type, and in my actual thing I will put my boolean condition. My boolean condition is captcha div dot is displayed. So now here I'm going to assert for this boolean condition, and I'm expecting the return type to be false. In case you are not sure how the return type will be in real time, you can just print it like this. You can just print it like this, and you will get a true or false value getting printed in your console, just for verification. Okay, so now let me run the same test case using assert equals method. Run as test ng. Home driver is getting invoked, IRCTC is getting opened. And now it will click on the request OTP. Yes, it got dimmed off. And here in the console you can see that my assertion has passed. Also, I've printed a statement called captcha div.is displayed just to make sure what return type we get. You see, we got a return type false. So this captcha.is displayed, this thing returned false. So since my actual was also false and this was also false, my assert false, sorry, my assert equals passed, which means it asserts for two data types. It might be a boolean data type, it might be a string data type, any string ab, it might be any integer. So it just asserts for two equal data values. So these two data values were equal and hence my assert equals passed. So this is how you can use your assert false in your assert equals method, wherein you can write your expected data value as a false value and then put your actual boolean condition in your actual data value. Okay, so now I think you got an idea of how to use assert true, assert false, and assert equals. In the next video we'll be discussing about assert equals, not equals, assert null, and assert not null.